Hello, I'm Derek Smalls, and you're watching, or listening, or both, to Rock Shop Live with Eric Broadbent. He's the Bent Broad.
You're watching Rock Shop Live, brought to you by Stewart Travel Guitars. See the incredible stowaway travel guitar at stewartguitars.com. Microphones for Rock Shop Live are provided by Rode Microphones. Now, for Music Gear Network, here's your host, guitarist Eric Broadbent.
Hey everyone, welcome to a midweek edition of Rock Shop Live. It seems like we've been live 3 times today because probably we have been live 3 times today. It's been a busy week, but we're having some fun, and we've got a guest back that we had about a year and a half ago, I'd say, somewhere in that neighborhood, over on the Kramer Korner show. We haven't done that in a long time, and we got to get back to that for sure. But it was nice to have you here before, and nice to have you once again. Tyler Morris, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm as good as we can all be in this whole thing. I'm staying indoors, and that's all that I can do.
That's good. That's smart. You and I were just talking about that just off the air a moment ago, and I mean, really, I really applaud people that do that. You know, the more we stay in, the quicker it's going to be for all of us. Oh, we lost your phone already. There we go. See if we can recover it. You got it? All right, awesome. Yeah, the quicker, the longer that we stay in, the quicker we're going to be able to get out of here. So a little bit of patience and a little bit of, some hardships for us a little bit, but, we'll get through it. We got a few people jumping in the chat, and this is so nice. I can actually see my chat this evening. I had a weird glitch this afternoon because I had 2 shows kind of back to back. Well, one was a premiere video, and then one was a live event. And I've only seen this happen once or twice before when there's a couple of events surrounding one another, the chats mess up. So I couldn't even see my chats. I can see people chatting, so that's awesome. We've got Brad Miller here in the chat. David Bowman, thank you for joining my beautiful Butterfly and Ladybug show. Sandra Lee's here. So we'll be jumping over to the chat quite a few times throughout the evening just to catch up with people, see how everyone is, and that good stuff. How is everything with the folks? Everything good? They doing healthy and they're doing well as well too?
Yeah, everyone's doing well. My dad, his profession, he's in the medical field, but he's in dentistry, and they shut that down, so he hasn't been working for about a month now. And someone who actually is a colleague of his did just get the virus and is in the hospital. So he's lucky because he did that. He stopped working a week or 2 before they officially made an announcement as a precaution.
Good.
And he, thank God everyone's healthy. And then, my mom and sister are also home as well. I'm taking grad classes at Tufts University for electrical engineering, and my sister's at Boston University. So we're taking classes online and
that's cool
and whatnot.
Yeah, you were telling me earlier you had like was it like an exam or something you're doing earlier today, or was that what it was?
Yeah, I had an exam last night that was actually a 3-hour exam on radar engineering.
Okay.
And yeah, that was not enjoyable, but it had to be done.
Yeah, it sounds a little, I don't know, a little out of my league. Well, yeah, not a little, very much out of my league. Yeah, I have grade 10 math, and that's my biggest skill, and I'm horrible at it. But we'll be talking a little bit throughout the evening as well too. Speaking of engineering and things like that, we're going to be talking about your pedals, your pedal company that you run, and things like that as well too. But besides the pedal company and the new record that we're going to be talking about tonight, since last time you've been here, I'm guessing it's been a good year, maybe closer to a year and a half. I don't remember. It seems like a long time ago. What have you been up to since then?
So I kind of did a lot of touring this past summer, the fall, in not necessarily in support of a specific album. My last album before the one that's coming out was in 2018. So 2019 was a year where I had a in-between year between that album, and I was working on getting my band lineup, my trio. In addition, I've been working closely with one of my mentors, Johnny A. And as some people know, he has this looper show with an Axe Effects, and he does this kind of looping thing. So I've been doing a similar setup myself to do solo shows, and that's for sometimes I get these opportunities to open for larger acts but it doesn't pay enough where I can pay my band. So I actually have a whole solo looper show that I've been developing, and Johnny has kind of told me how to set up the rig, and I'm even using one of his model guitars because it works so well.
Cool.
So yeah, I've been doing that. And of course, we'll talk about later. The album took a large chunk of this past year.
I bet for sure. That's awesome. Well, you keep them busy, obviously, for sure, and doing well with school, which is good to hear as well, too. You know, it's one of the things we talk about on the show all the time. There's been a lot of great musicians on here, aspiring musicians, professional, veterans, touring musicians, but they all say the same thing, too. It's so important to have, a good education, to back it up. Because look at now, times like this, we never know there's going to be something that's going to, grind us to a halt. And touring and things like that, we'll be talking about this. Touring is over now for everybody, and that's a livelihood for a lot of people. I know it wasn't your sole livelihood, but that's a big chunk of cash that a lot of people are like, okay, where am I going to pull that from now? So it's good to see the education is top priority, and obviously kudos to your parents as well too, for keeping you and your sister at it, whatever, and good upbringing there for sure. So that's awesome. Yeah. One of the other things I was going to talk to you about as well, too, is such a bummer. I mean, we were planning this for about a month and a half leading up to NAMM. We're going to NAMM, and we're going to meet up there, and it's so hard.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's so easy. Okay, text me. I'll meet you over by the, Ibanez booth. And then you get there, and we just couldn't meet up. But what were some of your highlights in NAMM? Tell me about some of the things that you saw there that were real takeaways for you.
I mean, honestly, the last few years, I've been going in and out of meetings and appearances, and I haven't really had the opportunity to go and see gear. To be honest, it's kind of been taking the fun out of NAMM for me, and I'm getting the next show I go to, I'm gonna seriously dwindle down my appearances and doing any kind of like meetings, because I do want to see the gear. That's why I originally started going NAMM. But I ran to a lot of friends. I ran to Elliot Easton, and I ran into I mean some of the folks at like Marshall and Gibson that I hadn't seen in a while. It's kind of my yearly or bi-yearly opportunity to talk with those folks. But really the biggest highlight for me was what came after the show. And on Friday and Saturday, I was playing at the Loge Room in Los Angeles.
Okay.
With my friend Kingfish, Chris Stone Kingfish Ingram.
Oh wow.
And he's this guy who's just a great kid, great player. There's tons of buzz about him, and he's been a friend of mine for a while. So his manager actually called me up and said, "Hey, are you gonna be at NAMM?" Which of course I was. So I said, yeah, I will be. And this was a few months before a show. And he said, okay, well, we're doing this huge, it sold out 2 nights in a row, 700 seats, both nights. We're doing this huge show, and we're having all these surprise guests. And would you be one? Because, you've been a friend of his for a while. It would be a great surprise. So I showed up, and I also built him a custom pedal. But it was really, really fun because this guy who I like, not a musician, but this guy who I of course love is Jeff Garlin, the comedian, and he was actually the opening act one night, the MC.
Okay.
So I got to talk to him. He likes guitars, and he's just like a huge proponent of the blues. So I mean, those 2 nights I had to leave the show, unfortunately. Friday and Saturday I had to leave at 4 p.m. I wasn't there Thursday because of an exam in class.
Oh right.
And Sunday I never end up going because that's like the more the public day. And I mean, even though it was outside of the show, that was by far the highlight, because I got to hang with him, and I got to hang around all these fantastic musicians, comedians, and it's a good reminder of hey, we all do this for the joy of playing, and for me it was the joy of playing live. So to be able to go to NAMM and talk about all this gear and whatever, but then at night go out and actually play and get back to, hey, what's the reason we're doing this?
Right.
It completes my NAMM experience for me. So that was my highlight.
No, that's cool for sure. And that's the thing too with NAMM. It's a lot of times people meet up like their fans and stuff like that on Facebook or, Twitter or Instagram, stuff like that from around the world. And it does work out nice where some people can get to meet their heroes and, stuff like that. And you get to connect with some of your fans that maybe you wouldn't get to see every day in your circle of touring and stuff like that. So it's very, very cool. For me, I worked a lot less this year, and I still didn't get a chance to see everybody. I tried to make appointments with everybody so I could, try to get things in. And I only really met about 5 or 6 of my friends from around the world. One of my friends here is in the chat right now, Mike Griffin. He was there. Got to meet him and a few others as well too. But the Line 6 event was great. Spent a lot of time there and over in the Yamaha big room as well too, because Junior was playing drums all weekend long, or he was pretty much going crazy on those electronic drums. And then the Kramer and the Gibson room. Did you go see the new Guitarist with Aljon?
Yeah. Well, when I actually never ended up running into Aljon. The whole NAMM. But I was with. I went to see. Like actually, how I ended up at Gibson is I didn't even go there Friday, and then Saturday I ran into Tom Murphy, the Ager guy, who's a good. He's actually one of the guys who kind of got me in the company. He said, hey, you guys should check out Tyler. So Tom brought me kind of back and showed me some of the cool stuff he was seeing. And then I ended up, I went to meet Dave Berryman to meet up with him. And then I ended up seeing all the Kramers. And then I got a text from Tracy saying, hey, if you go by the Kramer booth, take a photo of my guitar. So I ended up, seeing those, and I did see some of that stuff, but unfortunately I didn't run into Aljon this show. But I talk with Aljon all the time over the phone or email and stuff. So we ended up texting like, oh man, I missed you. But yeah, that's exactly what NAMM is. You just miss so many people.
Yeah. It's more accidental meetings that turn out to be really cool. Like when you plan to meet people, sometimes it just doesn't work that way, and you bump into somebody by accident, maybe on your way to see somebody else who you might end up missing. It could turn into a really cool meeting. And he was busy. We did see him for a better part of maybe about 20 minutes, and then we saw him a little bit again on the Thursday night. So you didn't take that event in. Excuse me, losing my voice. At the Grove, did you see that event at all?
I was supposed to go that. I was invited, and my plane, which was coming in Thursday night, it just came in like an hour or two late. Oh. And even then I was going to come in like halfway through the event, and I just didn't get there in time. So
no, that's too much rushing too. And that happened to us the year before, because the year before NAMM was about a week and a half later than what it was this year. So it was towards like the 23rd, 24th, 25th or something like that. Maybe even a little bit later than that. I forget. Whereas this year it was like the 14th, 15th, 16th or something. So we were still into some cold weather, and we got our plane was froze over. Actually, the entire Detroit airport was froze over, and they closed the airport, and we're like, oh great. So we ended up waiting. Instead of like getting a refund, whatever, there was no other flights we could take. We waited there for like 10 or 11 hours, and that was on the Wednesday, and it was a Wednesday night the year before for the Gibson event. Junior and I had the VIP passes and stuff, but we couldn't get there. We didn't get there till Thursday morning, probably in our hotel, probably about 2:30, 3 o'clock, Pacific time. And we're like, man, we're beat. So that was a bust. But this year we went, and it was so funny because I remember, it said, VIP, Gibson friends. So we didn't know who was on the lineup, but I'm looking at all these Marshalls.
Oh yeah.
And the Magnetone, stuff like that. I'm like, oh man, it looks like Slash and Billy Gibbons going to be up on stage, right? And then it was an open bar, and so my buddy Brian and I, we were having a couple sodas, and I didn't even remember if it was Slash or Billy Gibbons until the next day I watched a video back that I filmed. I was like, oh yeah, so that's how out of it I was. But it was a great event. They had like all the trimmings and food, you could eat. It was just incredible.
Yeah, it was. They had the year before they had, like last year they had, I just remember the takeaway was the food was excellent there. Actually, that year, I remember I was texting with Mark Agnesi just before he was at Gibson.
Okay.
And he was like, "Oh, are you at the Gibson event?" Like, and so he came and said hi to us and everything. And then like a few weeks later, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to Gibson."
Wow,
so
that's not that.
That was Yeah, that was about the timeline it happened. I think, unless it might have been March or something but I remember he was at the event last year, and that was before he's a part of Gibson.
Okay.
But yeah, he's and you know, he's a great guy. I communicate with him all the time. He gave me a cool quote on my record. But he's been really supportive of me since I was going into norms, like 14, 15 years old.
That's cool.
And his quote kind of reflects that. He says that. So, yeah, they're all great guys, and the event they throw on every year is like really fun.
Junior and I met him this year as well too, and it's funny because the year before was Gibson's first return to NAMM after for a little while there. They took a couple years off, or at least a year, whatever.
Well, they took a year off.
Yeah, a year, right?
Because I remember the thing I remember about the year before that was I was with Andy Timmons in the Kramer booth. I was talking to him about they had that diver down finish.
Okay, yeah, yep.
Which is the one I never was able to get, but I really want to get that for my Van Halen tribute. But I wasn't able. I think I had asked Aljon if there was any more of those left, and by the time I was like I had asked that, they were all just sold out and everything.
Yeah.
But the new finishes that they're doing, I think, are the best they've done. I don't know, since the 80s or maybe ever.
Yeah, I think so as well. But even if you can't find one of those guitars, even if Aljon can't find you one, you could paint that guitar so easy. Get one of the matte finish ones, and I mean that's a simple, easy paint job. Just tape that baby up and get the right color spray paint, and you're off to the races. Do a little bit of wet sanding on it if you need to, and I think you could do that pretty easy. It's not as hard as striping one of Eddie's, more intricate Frankies or something of that sort, right?
Yeah, we're actually like literally, I want to say March 15th, right before COVID struck and everything. I was talking to Gibson ER about I have a bunch of Van Halen shows coming up, tributes, which is the other thing I do, and it's we're playing venues like 500 to 700 seats, and I had a lot of success at this last show. I did a raffle where anyone who bought a ticket, like pre-ordered a ticket, could get this clone of a Frankenstein.
I remember that, yeah.
And what I did was it was just like it was one of those. It wasn't the matte finish Kramer, but it was like a previous iteration or something like that. That it might have even been a Focus. It was something I picked up and I striped, and so what I'm gonna do for the future shows, right before COVID, I was about to place an order. They got me the pricing on, I want to buy bulk, whatever many shows we have. I want to buy that many guitars, and I'm going to stripe them and raffle them off for anyone who buys a ticket to the show. And then the COVID struck, and I mean that's fine because the gigs got delayed anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's we got plenty of time to work with, but that's actually exactly what I'm doing. I'm getting the matte finish one.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that'd be nice. I think if I was to get one as well too in that style, I'd probably go with that. I do like a satin finish. I've got several guitars that are satin finish, and it's just nice. They don't necessarily always show fingerprints as much, and just that kind of stuff. It's just really, really easy to play. It's comfortable on the arm. I think they're very, very stylish. I'm just getting a message here. Let me see here. I can probably text it to you right now. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to see if I can text it to you.
Maybe I can pull it up on my computer.
Yeah, that'd probably be the best way to do it. I'm going to text it to you so you have it. I should have sent that to you before the show. That'll be the live chat link. So there's a few comments over here in the chat as well too. So Neil Banbury's jumping in as well too. Mike Griffin jumping in from Quarantine Land. Stephen S. is here. Don Shepard. I know I'm a little bit behind. At least I can see my chat tonight, which is good. Marty V says hello from Earth. Guitar Man 45. Let me see here. It says Marty V says strange. It finally feels like Earth since everyone is dealing with the same thing. Love to all and stay safe. Yeah, that's one thing, right? Come one, come all, rich or poor. We're all in this together for sure, and we're all facing the exact same thing. It's not something that targets any particular people. Let me see here. Louis Villarreal is here. Hello, Eric, Ladybug, and Butterfly. Never heard of Tyler. That's okay. That's what we're here for sometimes. We like to introduce new artists, and that's one of the things I wanted to get people kind of recap where we started off when we did not Rock Shop, Kramer Korner. So people that missed that show, we've had some new fans watching our show since then too. So catch up to speed for those that haven't seen you. And let me see. Brad Miller says Phil X stole that show this year. Yeah, he was really, really good.
Oh, he was. I have a funny story about that. He was. I think I can tell it now. At the time, he's like, "Hey, don't you keep this hush hush." So I was in I was in LA. Like, I do this crazy thing where every year I go out to LA in December, and then I go out for NAMM, which is stupid because you have to fly back 6 hours. So it really, I shouldn't do it, but I love going to LA, and there's just so many friends out there. So I was in LA on New Year's Eve, and Phil starts texting me. He's like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" I'm like, "Good. Happy New Year." And he's like, "Hey, got something to tell you. I'm gonna be with Gibson now." I'm like, "Oh, awesome." He's like, "Yeah, I couldn't say anything earlier, but now it's New Year's Eve, so I figure I can do whatever I want now." So I actually, but he's like, "Oh, you can't say anything until NAMM." But so I was speaking to him about that, and yeah, that was cool because I had said to him a few times too. I've seen his rig a number of times every time Bon Jovi comes through, and he has a number of Gibsons back there that he doesn't really use, but he's always been a Gibson guitar lover. So I was like, you should kind of just play these. I subscribe to Mark Agnese's attitude. Like, if you want to play Les Paul, you play a Gibson. If you want to play a Strat, you play a Fender.
Yeah.
And it's fine to play both. It's just why all these intermediate, brands or whatever. I kind of subscribe to that mentality. And obviously those two companies have like such great subsidiary brands, like the Jacksons, Charvels, Kramers, of course, Steinberger, that those brands are like the Gibsons and Fenders of those categories.
Yeah.
And then down from there, it's like, well, why would you play a copy of a Kramer? So I apply that kind of mentality, the play authentic that Mark has. So once Phil told me that, I was like, oh, dude, this is awesome. Glad to see you finally like playing real SGs.
Yeah, as opposed to what ESP was with for the longest time, right?
It was first it was Yamaha and then was Framus, and I mean both
That's right.
Yamaha and Framus make excellent instruments. But if I'm gonna play a Yamaha guitar or a Framus guitar, I'm gonna play something that is of kind of their own creation. I mean, if I'm gonna play an SG, I'll play a Gibson.
Right.
If I'm gonna play a like Yamaha RS or whatever, I'll play that Yamaha artist. I won't play a clone of that. So,
yeah. No, that's good mentality for
that's
sure.
That's just my thought, and that's something that like Mark Agnese says a lot.
Yeah. I'll jump back to that Phil X thing. So I'll make a comment, and I just want to catch up with a few other people here in the chat as well too. Butterfly Ladybug says, hope everyone is safe and sound on this wacky Wednesday. Guitar Man 45, good, stop working to watch the show. Brad Miller says, love Tyler's Instagram feeds, so that's cool. Got a nice Instagram fan there. Brad's a good friend here as well. Don Shepard enjoying these shows, working from home and playing a lot more for sure. That's nice. We're all getting some practice time. We can't say there's not enough time to practice, so keep at it. Don Shepard, I agree. Glad you guys are well and safe. Renato Mello, bass is here. Nice. Rod Bent, that's my son Eric Jr. He's kicking some serious butt on guitar and bass and keyboard and all that kind of stuff. Let me see here. I think I almost caught up, and yeah, I got a message here from Sandra. So back to the Phil X thing. I didn't get a chance to see that live when I was down there. Get to see them perform in the Gibson event, but I'm pretty sure, if memory serves me correct, from watching a NAMM video on YouTube the other day, Brent Fitz, who I had on the show last week, he was drumming for him, wasn't he?
Well, he I spoke to both of them during the show, and they played at the Grove on Wednesday.
Right.
And he didn't play at the event because he was playing at trying to remember. He was playing at like maybe it was the Ronnie Montrose thing. It was some other thing he played at, and Brent said like, "Oh, I'm not playing at that." So he did something on Thursday that was just Phil. So he wasn't at the Gibson event.
Right.
But on Friday and Saturday, he launched his guitar, and he told me like, "Oh, it's at 4 or 5." But unfortunately, I mentioned earlier I had those shows, so I wasn't able to actually get there and see those performances. But the booth was just so packed that even if I had gone there,
it's not enjoyable, right? You're kind of crammed in.
Too hectic.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was looking forward to finally getting a chance to see a Brent's Canadian band here. There, but have you heard? You know his band? Toque? Yeah, Toque. Yeah.
Toque.
Yeah, that's a Canadian thing. So a lot of people don't realize what it is. Toque is like your winter hat, right? So they call it Toque.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what we wear here. That's our Canadian uniform. It's the Toque. It's a Tim Hortons coffee and snowshoes. That's the official Canadian uniform. But so there's Brent on bass, Todd Kearns on what guitar and vocals, I guess. Corey Churko on guitar, and I forget, is it Shane, or I forget who the drummer is. But anyways, they were playing just down the street. We were on Harvard Boulevard there, I think it was. That's where we were staying, and the same hotel as Brent, actually. We ran into him in the elevator the next day. But it wasn't an all ages event, so I didn't get a chance to go see that. I was so bummed because that would be probably one of the only times locally. I mean, they might do Toronto, or they might do maybe Hamilton or something of that nature. I'm not sure how far east and west they come out this way, or in our area. So I was like, oh, I can't go see them because over there the minimum age is 21 to get in the clubs. Right, unless it is an all-ages event, and that one wasn't. So I didn't get a chance to see them. And then they were going to be at the Prestige Guitars. All the guys were going to be over at the Prestige Guitars booth, and they were going to be doing some kind of an event because a couple of them endorsed the brand. And
Todd.
Yeah, so I think Corey got a TV gig that just come up with probably with Shania Twain, and because that's where he plays with a lot. And I think they must have had a TV thing, so they kind of squashed that. Because they always say TV thing comes first, let's get over to TV, right? So we didn't get a chance to see him. But it was cool running into Brent. And, it's just basically like kind of in passing in the hallway, we talked for a quick second. And here in Canada, we followed him a lot with Theory of a Dead Man when he was with them way back. Seems like, 15 years ago. And so we kind of planted the seed and had him back on the show here last week. And that was a lot of fun, with all the bands he's played with and the experience. It's just, the guy is like a walking encyclopedia of rock and roll
He's
stories.
like the nicest guy in music too.
I agree. Yeah, he's a really down to earth guy. Yeah, we were sharing a photo of him when we met Sandra. If she followed my better half here, Sandra, she followed the band across the country, and she was pregnant with Eric Jr. So we shared this photo with him. He's like, "Oh my God, that just seems like yesterday, but it was 14 or 15 years ago." So very, very cool. Over in the chat, Gino Ames is here. He says, "Howdy, folks." That's cool. Canadian Deplorable 45 in the house with my toque. There you go. So you learned a new word tonight. You learned it's toque, not toque, right? Toque?
Yeah.
Well, some of us Canadians toque as well, but sometimes we even toque with a toque. That's just my.
I really need to get to Winnipeg because I know so many. I know so many people from Winnipeg. Like almost everyone I know who's Canadian is from Winnipeg.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, definitely, that's a place I would not want to be in the winter. I mean, we get it bad enough here. I'm in southwestern Ontario, which is where I'm kind of located without giving away my GPS coordinates. We're kind of between the winter Detroit border and London, Ontario. So, we do get a lot of snow. So it can get crazy. We had snow today. Can you believe it?
Oh, yeah. I actually, in Boston, we have only had snow like 3 times this winter, which is, I mean, that like hasn't happened in 40 years or something. It's an anomaly.
I know it does. It's crazy when it happens, for sure. Let me see. Louisville, Bob and Doug McKenzie. Have you ever seen Bob and Doug McKenzie? Google them.
No, I haven't.
Okay, look them up on YouTube, and but don't judge. Don't let necessarily that be the stereotypical Canadian. But it's hilarious. Rick Moranis and Bob and Doug. I totally forget. Dave Thomas, is that Dave Thomas? I think it is. I really feel bad that I forgot about that, but there's some Rush influence with that as well too. Geddy Lee did kind of a bit of the soundtrack and Take Off to the Great White North. It's a really funny. It used to just be like a Second City TV and a Saturday Night Live skit turned into a movie, right? Very, very cool. And this is a good point here too from Louis Villarreal says Mounties. Yeah, mounted police here in Canada. Guitar Man 45 looks like you like your Marshalls from what he says. Tell us a little bit about your fascination with Marshalls.
Yeah, so I am a martial artist, but I'm only that because I'm just obsessed with them. Let's see, actually, I'm on my phone here, so I can take a little walk around this room.
Sure.
So I'll give a tour of. There's also other amps, like I got like 4 EVHs, and I got Albert King's Bandmaster right here too, which is another cool thing. There we go.
There you go. Yep, got the other. Oh, you had it. Try it again.
There we go.
Perfect.
So here is my collection of some larger Marshalls at JMP 70. Can you hear me?
Yeah, got you. Yep.
So JMP 75, 79, YGM 100. This one used to be Joe Perry's 1971 Plexi.
Wow.
Super Lead rather. It doesn't have the Plexi grill.
Mm-hmm.
JCM 800. This is a Rev amp that they put my name on. I was actually the first guy to start endorsing Rev when I first met those guys at NAMM.
Cool.
So I have a 740 and a 120, which I love as well. And then here's the mini Marshall. And I have more Marshalls downstairs and stuff that I use on the road, ready to go. But this is my collection of super leads.
Nice.
And I use this as the background in my video.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the rear ones, these Plexis. Every one of these amps is the same. Made in England, the 80s equivalent of these Marshall MGs. And they sound phenomenal. But these Plexi Tolex ones are really hard to find, and luckily I found 2 of them. So I mean that's my little. I call this the Marshall Lounge. But I got obsessed with Marshall, because the listening guys like Blackmore, Van Halen, and I do the guys there at the company that today are very, very good. They're very supportive of young artists like myself. And I just I commented down below, stay tuned to Marshall's page because I just filmed a whole bunch of videos from this room last week that they're gonna. They asked me if I would, hey, can you teach the audience some riffs? So I have 3 surprise riffs I taught people that they're going to post on the Marshall Instagram page that are going to be pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. Right on.
Do they go to 11?
Spinal Tap, right?
Yeah, unfortunately not, but I do want to get, they got to make knobs or something. I should look into that.
Yeah. You could easily put like a little, like a sticker on there and just put 11, move the knob a bit.
Someone said like an Yngwie. Yeah, it's funny. I have an Yngwie like duck clone that I was putting next to this.
Oh, yeah.
I was texting all the guys in like Yngwie's bass player.
Yeah. And
they were just cracking up like, oh, we should get like a little kid dressed as Yngwie or something. And I have over back there, I have a mini Strat that has scallops actually. And it's like really? A mini Yngwie Strat. So I literally put that next to the amps, and I'm like, hey, does this picture look any better, more proportioned?
Yeah, you need to get like have the little mini Strat and a toddler wearing a wig, so the amps will look huge, but because it was, that'd be phenomenal. Yeah, that's great. Let's talk a little bit about the pedal company, because you told us about that before, and this is why I couldn't believe it, because I always say I was kind of dumbfounded by your age. I thought you were much younger than you are. So, I mean, that's a good thing. You got a look that will, last a long time in the business. You could be, when you're 50, you're going to look like you're, 28. So you don't have to worry about that. But I was surprised that you had your own pedal company, and not just like, someone can buy parts at Radio Shack and make a pedal, like serious sought after pedals. Tell us a little bit about that, when you got into it, and maybe some of your celebrity clients.
Yeah, so I started off in high school getting into electronics. I wanted to create Brian May's tone. So I made 3 different types of treble boosters. and none of them were doing it for me. And we all know that a certain amount is in the fingers, but I started to experiment with, hey, how close can I get with these electronics? So I actually, these 3 different designs that I created, I ended up swapping some parts and getting close to there. But then I ended up going to, I just graduated in December as an electrical and computer engineering major from Worcester Polytech Institute. And I'm currently, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned it earlier, I'm a graduate student at Tufts for electrical engineering now, graduating next year. So I gained some more knowledge, and that treble booster is now a product I offer among other things that I'm working on that haven't been, they haven't been released yet. But the treble booster, I liked it a lot. And then my friend Jimmy Vivino, who's the host of, he's the band leader for Conan O'Brien.
Oh, right.
He also is Fab Four. Also the Gibson show that you went to, he's the guy in the hat with the beard.
Yes.
That's him. And he was using one of my pedals on that show.
Isn't that something?
Because it's in his rig.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy said, hey Tyler, he knew me because I had played a show with him, and I mentioned I build pedals. He's like, hey, you think you can make something that sounds like Clapton? And I'm like, well, which era? And the era of Clapton he used a Rangemaster, which is similar to that treble booster circuit. So I modified the circuit. And then what happened? Sorry, I'm just scrolling through and then what happened once I modified the circuit for Jimmy is he said, I need like 5 of these things because he had them on different pedal boards, Conan. So he showed some of his friends. So Warren Haynes and Joe Bonamassa ordered them. Then I spoke to some people I know. We're family friends with Brad Whitford from Aerosmith. So I got one to Brad's hands. He got one to Joe's hands, Joe Perry. And then Phil X, I got one made for him. I made Mark Agnesi a pedal. Elliot Easton, I made a pedal. I'm working on one for Brian May and Orianthi currently.
That's nice.
And then Conan O'Brien himself, Jimmy, got one for me for his birthday because he plays guitar. And Jeff Garlin, the comedian, Al Di Meola. I'm probably missing some.
It's hard to remember all the names, especially when you have a list like that too, though. I mean, like each one is just like, wow, and I know you don't mean to forget them, but I'm sure there's probably a few you might have forgot, but obviously getting into the right hands, people, highly sought after, and they're all custom, probably point-to-point wiring, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's all custom. It's I make the circuit boards, I solder everything. I even make the artwork by hand. And with my vinyl machine, I design it on a computer. And everything, I mean, I have to sit there and test all of these things, and I have a reference pedal, and everything goes to that reference pedal. So if you get I guess the story of how they became consumer models is last Summer NAMM at the Gibson event.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Bonamassa came up to me and said, hey, Tyler, how's it going? I'm like, good. Did you receive that pedal? I gave it to Jimmy to give to him. And he said, yeah, man, that's one of the best treble boosters I played or something like that. And Gary, my friend Gary Chachi from Premier Guitar, who's actually local, I met him one NAMM sitting next to him on a plane, and he lives right around the corner from me. And he said, hey, I just heard Joe. So Joe likes your pedal. I keep seeing these things. When are you going to make a consumer line? And this was in July.
Wow.
And up to that point, I mean, I had been accepting, like, Jimmy would make a post and, like, you would get, like, Slash and tons of people who follow Jimmy would like it. And then I would get, like, 10 orders or something. And I was making these one-offs. Like, everyone gets it. Like, oh, you want your name, you can have it. And then Garry said, would you consider doing like a generalized consumer run where they all look like this, numbered and signed, and I could help you promote it on Premier Guitar with a press release. So I said, you know what, that would, like, from my work perspective, if I could just stick to one design
Be
and
easier.
bulk make like 30 of them.
Yeah.
So that's when I drafted the press release, and I made this was released in August, the Turbo Booster. The first run is 30 units, and the Jimmy Vivino version of it with his artwork and his custom modification is 20 units. And these pedals, they have the consumer version, they have a knob to adjust the volume, and they have 3 modes. They have Carlo Santana, they have Eric Clapton, then downward is Brian May.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, it's kind of like my issue with a lot of pedals, and a complaint I hear from a lot of these guys in the industry is, these will get a pedal and it's just, there's too many features, there's too many knobs, too many adjustments.
Yeah.
And all of that, from an electronic perspective, all of that really, it adds to the resistance of the whole system.
Okay.
So Jimmy's pedals and my pedals don't have any volume knobs at all. It's just you, and that's how Brian May likes his pedal. He just tapes it on the back of his strap and just hits go. It's always on. But I understand that consumers want to, if they're playing their bedroom, they want to dial it down. So I put a volume knob there, and I tried to make it as even resistance throughout.
Okay.
But my preference is no volume knob. But the idea is that we were talking about Marshalls. The idea is that you should be able to plug with this pedal. You can plug into your little, like I'm standing next to a Blues Junior. You can plug into that amp at a volume, like bedroom volume. Put this pedal in front of it, and it will sound like a Marshall Blues Breaker, Eric Clapton in the 60s, or Brian May on his Vox, and that's the whole idea. And I mean, it's really, I've been getting a lot of great feedback from all of these guys. And there's other products I'm gonna make. Like there's this fuzz pedal I made for Jimmy that he wanted to get a certain tone that John Lennon was getting. And I wasn't aware of that problem at first. He just said, do you have a fuzz pedal? I said, yeah, here's the fuzz pedal I make. Sent it to him. He said, wow, I had 3 guys contracted to make these fuzz pedals to get John Lennon's tone on Revolution, and none of them could do it. And somehow this does it. And I'm like, well, do you want me to modify? And he's like, no, don't touch a thing. This is like, just happened to work.
It's perfect.
And, he talked to John's son, Sean Lennon. And I think that's how you pronounce it. And he told him about this pedal, and he said, hey, remember that guy in Japan we had make a pedal and was too noisy? Yeah, this kid makes this he told me that 2 weeks ago. So I'm like, man, so we're gonna have to do a run of those now. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And I was downstairs, and if you pick up the new issue of Vintage Guitar, on the cover it says Tyler Morris Designs. It's one of the stories. We got a full page. There's like a full page ad for my album and pedal company there. There's a full page review for the pedal, and there's a review of the album. So it's this Vintage Guitar is a lot of me in it. And I've been working with Vintage Guitar, doing videos for them for maybe 5-6 years now, may a little less. I got to check the dates. And, through that relationship, we just, we've never done anything this extreme. And, it's not, I mean, even if you have a relationship with one of these guys, like a Vintage Guitar or whatever, it's still like, you can't be like, oh, can I have you can't really suggest articles and have them pick them up. And I didn't suggest any of these articles. Everything just came together, and it happened to come together in April. And the literally like 2 days before my new album, and it was just perfect timing.
Couldn't ask for better.
And I literally asked for better, and they said, well, we can't doctor things and whatever. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not asking that. I'm just like, if we're doing these two things, can we line them up? Oh, we'll see how it falls. And it just magically fell, because they're dealing with so many different artists and so many different reviews that, you gotta, like, if I come to them and I'm like, okay, so you guys asked to do a review of my pedal and at the same time review my album, any chance we could get them to line up in the same issue? When those are just two things that are in two separate entities in their departments, and they're like, no, probably not. But it just worked out, and I'm happy for that. And it's been great working with those guys. We're releasing some video content in a few weeks as well with them.
That's awesome. Well, what's one thing a lot of people don't realize when it comes to magazines, newspapers, and things of that sort, especially things in the print medium. I've worked in advertising for a lot of years now. I worked in radio, but I still was involved in advertising. And whether we want to look at it or not, all these mediums are based on, well, let's focus on the ads, and then we'll put what content we can in to fit. And so that's why I can appreciate what they're saying. Okay, we might not be able to fit you in here, or we might not, because if you have a good sales month of ads, which obviously they're hoping they do, and they do, or they wouldn't be in business. So whatever's left is for the content. And I know we as consumers of the content, we like to look at it and say, well, I'm watching it, reading it for the articles and stuff like that too. But it's the ads that, if it wasn't for those ads, they wouldn't be the newspapers, it wouldn't be these magazines. So the timing was obviously perfect. And I know what it's like too, because you have like a deadline, like not you, but the papers and the magazines have a deadline, usually like a month and a half before the actual issue goes out. So that's why, like, they'll say the March issue, but it's technically May or whatever. It's crazy, but perfect timing. And before we jump over, we're going to be wrapping up at 10. But before we jump over to the biggest thing I wanted to talk to you about was obviously promoting this record. Let's go over. There's a few other questions in the chat or comments as well too. And again, as always, I'm behind. Mule Blues says Strange Brew. There you go. That's what we're looking at. Talking about the Spinal Tap comment. RG Pops is here. Dave Thomas, HowieZowie. There we go. Ingve Concert. Yeah, we caught up on that as well. Bobby Clipper is here. We've got some links from Sandra from Butterfly and Ladybug Show to all your social media profiles. There was a question. Okay, and Don Shepard says, thanks to you, Eric, I now know about Tyler. He rocks. And that's the thing. Sometimes, we don't know all of my guests, and we like to share new artists with you, and then, we get to make the circle bigger, which is awesome. I know there was a question. Oh, there it is. From Lewis. He says, speaking of Phil X, does Tyler use the Bad Monkey or the Ibanez TS-808?
Do I?
Yeah.
I use the TS-808. I've never used a Bad Monkey. I have many TS-808s, like every variant made by different manufacturers, including ones that I've built.
Oh, that's cool. Very, very cool. We've got Six String Brian in the chat as well too. Hope you're doing good, Brian. Gino Ames, Vintage Guitar Magazine rocks. I agree, and I saw that advertisement as well too. I just saw that today, and there's a picture of you in the corner there with Conan O'Brien, as you talked about earlier. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
yeah, awesome. Let me see, Neil Banbury. What do you think of Satchel's line of pedals? That's a good question, fair question. I haven't played them. From Steel Panther, do you have any comments on that, good or bad?
I haven't played them. I like they're. I know Satchel or Russ a bit, and out of character, and he that whole thing is obviously an act when he puts that on.
Sure,
he's very serious in real life, and they're all. I think it's a funny joke or whatever he's pulling, but I haven't heard the pedals, but they're supposed to be boutique. I would assume they're good quality.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't want to compare the two bands like from Steel Panther to Spinal Tap, but it's a parody. You know, it's a parody. I mean, with Spinal Tap, it was more of the '70s bands and things of that nature. And you know, with Steel Panther, here again, I'm not trying to compare bands, but everything from like your '80s, like your Poison, and you know, you name it. Even the names of the characters, right, are kind of based on things like that. So very cool though. Sonia, one of our friends and moderators, says she loves your playing Tyler, and Brian loves the Marshalls. So you've got if I had to write the name of the record down so I didn't forget, Living in the Shadows. It's coming out this Friday.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, tell us about the process that you told us at the top of the hour. You were saying, you know, part of the last year was working on that, and you've had some downtime, which has helped, you know, to get into that. But tell us about the record, the making of it, where you recorded it, and then how fans can get it this Friday.
Yeah, so my friend Mike Zito, who is actually you might be familiar if you know like Samantha Fish, and
Yep,
he's kind of this producer, big guy in the blues genre, which is not so big of a genre, I would say, but he is a big guy in the blues rock genre, and he contacted me after watching. I did this video for Gibson, helping them advertise this new 235 model with Premier Guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and he he actually he bought the guitar after he watched the video, and he messaged me and he says, "Hey, when are you coming down to do a record? Because I just bought this guitar, because you know, like you're playing made me want to buy it." So I had been talking to a few producers for this record, and I'd listened to some of his stuff. I had known some of his stuff, of course, and I said, you know what, this guy matches my style real well. I spoke to him, and it seemed like a good match. So I went down to Beaumont, Texas, was at his house for a week. We recorded the record in 3 days. It's 11 songs. My first album where I sing lead vocals on the whole thing, except for Samantha's sister, Amanda Fish, sings on one song. The legendary Joe Louis Walker sings on one song, and Ronnie Earl, who's a blues legend as well, he jams with me on one track. But other than that, you know, I'm singing, or in those 2 tracks, I'm singing the whole thing, and that was a big step for me that he pushed me to do. And it's something that if I hadn't met him, I probably still wouldn't be doing it. And I didn't realize I could sing, which is something that I actually can do. So, you know, I've been trying to do that live. And then, of course, the live shows the plug got pulled on with the COVID. So, you know, I've been trying to do some singing over live streams. We get some CD release shows planned, you know, later May. I don't know if they'll happen. But I got a trio. We know the songs. I sing them. And, you know, it really represents a big evolution in my sound and songwriting. And someone I was talking to, I had an interview yesterday, phone call with Blues Music Magazine. And they asked me, you know, how would you describe this record? And if I had one word, I would kind of say like evolution, or cohesive. If I had, you know, more words, I would say that this defines, you know, who is Tyler Morris. And this is my 4th record. And it took till that record to, you listen to like, the Beatles, you listen to Van Halen, you listen to, you know, Taylor Swift, and before you turn on the record, you know generally how the record's going to sound. And this record forward is defining my sound. And it's not because I'm forcing it to do that. It's that I have, on the last record, I was very close, and there's Tylerisms in the first 3 records, but I kind of, on the last record, I proved, I can play all these genres of blues. And here's I can play all these genres like I did on the last record, but I have finally found, you know, what genre is Tyler Morris.
Okay.
And I try to say that like humbly, that's the way that Mike kind of described this record to me. And I'm not trying to put myself on the same level as these other bands that are obviously way more successful and have way more hits than I do, but in 4 records, I finally, it took me that long, and I feel like I finally feel comfortable in my songwriting.
Well, you've grown a lot
That
too,
makes
right?
sense.
No, it does. It does make sense. I mean, you've grown a lot. You started young. You started recording really young. And, sometimes, maybe you're chasing different paths, different influences you had at one time. And, just because it's 3 records, 4 records, maybe it's 6 records before some artists may say, my 7th record was the sweet spot. I really grew as a musician. I found my own way, whatever. But in this case, it's your 4th one. So, it doesn't matter when it happens, as long as it happens, you found a nice voice for yourself. So coming out Friday, digital copies and physical copies as well, like at the city release parties, can they be bought through the website and mailed to people too, or?
Yeah, I've been doing that all this week and all last week. So if you go to my website, that is, you guys have been linking down below, TylerDMorris.com. You can go to the store, and the store takes you a separate page, and go to it will say "Live in the Shadows" pre-order. And if you notice, that album is, if you plan on buying the album, I really urge you to do it this week. If I get it out tomorrow, it'll be on your doorstep by like Saturday morning.
Wow.
Still, it's most of the people today. I sent them out Tuesday. I was predicting Friday. Most of the people got them today.
Nice.
And the reason I say that if you plan on buying it, try to pre-order early. Is because I only have a limited supply of these at my house.
Right.
And I'm doing a special offer where if you search for this album, it's expensive it's more expensive at every other source except my website.
Oh,
I
good.
lowered the price, and I'm offering, I'll sign it any way you want. I'll personalize the signature. And the reasoning for that is I just want to help uplift spirits during this time. I think music is the best way to heal. And, I miss that personal connection with fans at shows.
Yeah.
And that's, so that's why if you buy it, I would prefer you buy it from me at a cheaper price, and that I get to say something personal to you. And I mean, those will be gone by Friday. They're almost already gone. I've sold over 250 of them in the last few weeks.
Good for you.
Just for my website. So if you plan on doing that, I'd be more than happy to sign anything you guys want. And I just appreciate you taking a shot on this music, and I hope that can provide some healing in this time.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's good because we all need that. And I've over the past several shows since the COVID thing has really taken off, we get talking about this with some guests, and it's like, they'll say, oh, your music has helped me get through this, and your music has helped me get through this. And, it is something that we can all connect with. And, everything's going to be there tomorrow. There's still going to be some problems for a while, but, we can forget about it for a little bit and, enjoy some music, or maybe it's a TV show or something, whatever that could be. It just, it gets you through a troubling time. So that's awesome. We're looking forward to hearing how that continues to sell after the official release there, but I wish you all the very best. And I look forward to, when the world gets back to normal, whenever that's going to be, to get you back out there and see how you're doing supporting the record. And of course, the Van Halen tribute shows and all that fun stuff as well, too. So it's been a blast. Brad Miller said just ordered. That's fantastic. There you go. Nice.
Oh, wow.
And Canadian Deplorable says Panther Pedal on the way. And thanks for the support there for him, Brad. That's awesome. Brad's told me here on the show several times too. There's been different artists I've had on, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know about that artist." So here again too, it's another way to pay it forward, to learn some new music and artists out there, and kind of just grow this and share it with one of your friends as well too. So if you discover a new artist, tell one of your buddies that may not know about that particular artist. In this case, it could be you, could be anybody else, and then it's paying it forward is what it is. David Bowman says, great show. Thank you. I appreciate that, David. So, Tyler, I'm going to say goodbye to you off the air. You know the routine. We always say goodbye off the air, and we'll wish everyone, we're going into the weekend, getting close. We're midweek right now. Tune in this Friday. Have a fun show, a very unorthodox show for me here. We've got from Better Call Saul universe actor Patrick Fabian, who plays Howard Hamlin. And season 5 is going to be wrapping up next Monday. So that's the end of season 5. Then we have to wait to get through this COVID stuff. They'll be shooting season 6, and that's it. That's the finale of the Breaking Bad universe and Better Call Saul universe. So I'll be looking forward to that. It's going to be a fun show. I saw a few new faces here this evening. If you are new here to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. I promise to work really hard and keep you very, very hard. And we'll look forward to bringing you some more content very soon. Everyone, thank you so very, very much. We'll look forward to seeing it. And best wishes to Tyler with this new record. And we'll see you on the weekend. And until then, cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
Video production services for Rock Shop Live are provided by Design 39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for Rock Shop Live are provided by Rode Microphones.